You heard the saying, you can't pour from an empty cup. Well, I was trying to squeeze this water from the stone, and eventually my body just gave up. And doctors never figured out what was wrong with me. I literally had to take a step back and take stock of my life, do this contemplating, and then also look at things like self-sacrifice. So was I, sacrificing myself? And self-sacrifice is when people give away, or when you give away your personal power, when there's only a one-sided transaction. So in your scale, it goes like this, because you keep giving to the other person, and it ends up with you being taken advantage of. And then what happens when you're taken advantage of? You start to feel resentment, right? So I have to go home and cook. Ugh. Even though I really like cooking. But then I felt like, when you're cooking, and you ever seen an angry Indian woman cooking when the pots are banging, spoons are making a noise. And, also we sometimes give from a sense of guilt, right? That happens a lot in society. When we maybe see somebody that's less fortunate than ourselves, or from societal norms, right? I better give or else I'm going to hell, or else it's bad karma. And when we start doing that, we end up depleting our own resources. So in my instance, I felt I needed to take care of myself. And when I took a step back and started to introspect and said, okay, I am blocking everybody else out of my life for a while. And then, I thought to myself, am I being selfish? And so why are people selfish anyway? And when we think about people being selfish or selfish people, can you think of somebody and hold that person in your mind to just contemplate it for a minute? Why do you think that person is selfish? And then when you think about selfish people, you think about people that are almost born, well, actually all of us, we're born into this bubble of fear. That's what human beings are, right? That's how we are built. We're built with this innate response to either fight, flight, or freeze. It's within our DNA. It's our reaction to, you see a tiger. And what did the cavemen do, ancient people do? As soon as they saw something that was dangerous, they either ran away, or they tried to kill it, fight, or then they were really frozen and pretended that I'm a rock. Let me pretend I'm a rock. Don't eat me. And so nothing's changed. Millions of years, or however long humans are around for, we haven't changed. We still have this fight, flight, or freeze situation. And that's actually what generates people to be selfish. The other thing about selfishness is that it's also purposelessness. When a person is selfish, they only think of themselves. And when they think of themselves, there's a barrier between them and between the collective consciousness. And so that person is not able to give, neither are they able to receive, because they're only in a bubble themselves. So then in my story, I thought, okay, I need to make sure I'm getting some benefits from this. And then I went through a breakup, and I was like, I am never going to let anybody take advantage of me. I come first. So out came my broom. It wasn't for sweeping. I was riding that broom. Then I was like, I could be a witch. And I don't care what anyone else says. And, that is actually self-centered behavior. And so how do people become self-centered? What does it mean? In most instances, these people give, but they want to get more. So give a little, but get a whole lot more. And you think about it, that happens a lot in business, right? It happens a lot in the world now, where I will give you this amount of money, but I expect to get a lot more back. And when people don't get their needs met, when they don't get what they expect, then they start getting angry. I gave this, but look at the people, ungrateful. They're so ungrateful. I see this all the time in charity work as well, or in like learnerships. Everything is given to people and then they don't take it, or then they discount bursaries, they don't use it all the time, or they squander money. And then you think to yourself, well, you get angry. I gave them this money and they just drank it all away. But then you're giving from the mind in that instance, because there's an expectation. There's an expectation and there's an outcome that you wanted from this. And it makes you think about it. How many times do we give because we want something back? Sometimes we give for recognition. And sometimes we give to cover up our own deep pain. So we don't want this thing to happen to other people, so I will make sure that it just goes away, and then I do everything that I can. A lot of the times, parents do this, where they don't want their children to go through the same, so they will just give out of, but it may not be the right reason for the giving. And then if you think about the concept of service and then selfishness, and you think to yourself, well, is service to self? So when I was serving myself, was I being self-centered? If I had to take that step back and, regroup, was I being self-centered? And I think that the perception is key. So if you look at it from the perspective that you are separate from others, that you are you and I am me, and serving yourself becomes a thing of survival, right? It's that we're born into a fear bubble and I need to make sure that I have available resources and that my needs are met first, then I can help you. But if you look at it from the perspective of everyone is God, we're all a part of the collective, then serving myself is serving God. It's a philosophy that not everybody may subscribe to. And there's no right or wrong answer. It's just a matter of perspective and of feeling. And then if that was going to be my sole focus, then I was only going to help myself. And that's a very lonely road if you only help yourself. So the contrast to all of this is something that we must also think about. And that is the difference between service and servitude. So if you want to put into the chat, what do you think the difference is between service and servitude? And whilst you're doing that, I'll tell you what became of me in my story. So I had to make some decisions for myself when I did a regroup. I relocated. I left that city. I left the relationship. I had to say to myself, as scary as it is, because I was operating from a fear-based response and starting from scratch again, I said to myself, what's the worst that could happen? I have a car. I'm going to live out of my car. And I had to make peace with that. I had to make peace with, fear of failure. What are people going to say? Sometimes being ousted by society and being rejected by society is the worst kind of fear that you can have. And I realized that I couldn't help anyone if I was down and out, if I was in hospital, and if I was ill. So I needed to replenish myself and find out what was actually going to replenish my energy. And so that started, or catapulted, I would say, catapulted my journey into discovering myself. And the answer came one day when I was at at work and I was looking at doing a people program. And in that people program, I ran a campaign where we got everybody to plant some trees in little pots, plant some seeds, and it was around career planning. And it was an odd event that we had, but the realization was that, why am I feeling so good? I feel like I have energy for days. And I felt like, there's such a deep sense of fulfillment. And I realized, oh my word, my cup is full. That was like a big aha moment for me. So you can imagine me walking around with like a big light bulb going off in my head, over my head, and I'm bright. I felt brighter. I felt that there was a light inside me that I was now sharing with everybody else. And I realized it wasn't at the expense of my well-being. And so it's a very delicate balance, right? Audrey Hepburn said, as you grow older, you will discover that you have two hands. One is for helping yourself, and the other is for helping others. And I thought that was so profound when we think about balance and we think about service to self and serving other people. And I found in making small changes, you can make a big impact. And then that impact impacts other people. And so when acts are born out of love for yourself, the God within you, and love for humanity and other selves, it's being of service to other selves. And then I know when I am being of service to other selves in that manner, I am also serving myself. And the one thing that also comes to mind is, why do you feel good? And how would you know that you're feeling good? I found that the general chemical, if you want to use the scientific terminology, is serotonin. So when you give to others, or when you serve others, and it's a good kind of service, and it comes from the right place, then you get a burst of serotonin. It's a chemical that gets released in your body, and that creates satisfaction, like satiation, like you are fulfilled. And when we stop producing it, we have this hole inside us. It's like you're hungry all the time. And if you think about people that are hungry all the time, or people that are hungry, metaphorically speaking, they try to fill that hunger with other things. And that's how people become selfish and self-centered, because they're trying to still fill that hunger, but with, things that could be material, or things that they are serving themselves with. And when I think about that and think about, well, in my instance, how do I know that those happy chemicals are being released? I found it's love. And if you think about service, how different is the feeling of service to the feeling of love? And love doesn't always mean giving. So to serve doesn't always mean you giving away something. Love could mean challenging someone. Love could mean supporting them, or just being present, holding space for people. And that's what service is all about as well. People assume that service means, servitude or giving. The easiest and quickest way to change your life for the better is to give your love unconditionally in as many places that you can. So I'll leave you with a quote by Neil Walsh. He said, "Your life has nothing to do with you. It's about everyone whose life you touch and the way in which you touch it. Love is all there is." So I thought that was very profound. And I also thought that it's something that we have to continuously think about. It's never black and white. It's different for every human being, and it will be different for each one of you. And I hope my story has inspired you to think about it in your own lives and to really contemplate, what does service mean to you, and how can you be of service to others so that you can also serve yourself. Thanks, Shalu.
Okay, if anybody has any questions for Melissa, we can ask or they can write in chat box.
Yeah, I would like to not ask, I don't know if there's a question also, uh, but yes, this indeed was a very powerful conversation and whatever you shared. And I think somebody, especially people who are working in development sector and have somewhere felt that, because I work with children and I've worked with survivors and child protection, so it's very difficult sometimes. And I think in that process only I came to know that I'm not taking care of myself and I'm going to uh, give it out. So I think that felt very relatable. But yeah, again, because especially like you're saying servitude, one thing is like personally you are doing in your personal life, you are uh, perhaps how you're taking care of your relationship. But when you are professionally also in a maybe in a profession where you have to give all the time, so how do you manage that? Because then of course in personal life you can say you're receiving as well, but there uh, in your job, for example, you have an obligation to do that, even if you have the resources or not like inside you, but you have to do that. So it's very difficult balance that I find myself struggling with. So any reflections that you might have, I don't know if there's a particular answer, or maybe it's part of the process that I might realize it, but yeah.
I think, well, a great question. And I think it depends on why, on you going back to ask yourself, why do you serve? What is the reason for you doing that particular job or those particular actions? What is it giving you? And is it making you feel good? So for me, it may sound hedonistic, but why do you do something if it doesn't make you feel good? Is it because it's going to make you feel good later? Is it going to make you feel good now? And what does it mean for you in service when you say you're giving or you're serving? And when you can figure that part out, when you do those tasks that is coming from a point of deep love and compassion. And that's another word that is very interesting, because we talk about empathy, but empathy actually, when you look at the breakdown of the word, it means, feeling. You're actually feeling what someone else is feeling. You're taking that feeling in you. Compassion could be where you understand what the other person is going through. And that part is a very fine line. I use that word because, especially in jobs where there is a lot of giving, and you feel, and it's a heavy feeling job when people are going through. Let's use a case study. There's a man and he is destitute. He doesn't have any food, and your job is to provide him with food. You work for a charitable organization. You're providing him with food. And you see him every day, and you see the suffering that he's going through. You see the hunger pangs that he has. And there's something inside you that makes you think, I remember what it's like to be hungry. And you also generate those hunger pangs. Now, are you giving him the food in the hopes that the hunger pangs will go away because your hunger pangs is going away? Are you giving him the food because you're saying to him, my soul sees your soul, and maybe this food will help you to get to your next level. Maybe it will take away this hunger so that you are thinking clearly to uplifting yourself. That's just an example. It could be a lot deeper than that. But each one of those instances should make you think about it. Because if you had to give the money or give the food to this person, and you think about it from that perspective, can you feel the difference in how it feels? One feels like I'm, trying to make it go away, and then the other one is saying, I think there's hope. And that's where the drama triangle comes in, because were you the hero in that situation where you're giving the food away and saying, I'm just going to stop you from feeling hungry? Or are you the person that says, come do this work for me? Maybe you should come do this little work for me and I'll give you this food. Because now that person understands that, there's an exchange. Also, how are you feeling how are you receiving the energy back? So in today's world, money is actually our way. We've translated energy into money. I do this thing for you, you give me the money, and then, it's supposed to be equitable. But actually it's not. Because sometimes you're getting the money, and you think about Red Cross workers, they're not getting anything. They're literally giving away their time. And what are they getting back? Something that they're doing is actually giving them that sense of fulfillment. Otherwise, you wouldn't have people that's doing those things. I hope that has answered your question.
Yeah, very beautifully. Thank you so much.
Okay, do we have any other question? Anybody wants to ask any question or want to share anything related to the topic today? Hello.
Hi, I want to ask a question.
Okay, Neetu, go ahead.
Hi, so I wanted to ask that sometimes, like, what I perceived of the whole conversation is like, in my perspective, or like the way I do things is saying yes. So sometimes, like when you really don't want to do that thing, but you say yes because at that will make things easier for you mentally, because that will save your energy towards that person. Okay, so I'm not able to like clearly articulate it, but I want to ask that sometimes we just say yes because that will not complicate things further. So like that work will be done at that point of time, but you really don't want to do that work, or you really don't want to say yes to that thing. So like what should or like what is the right way to approach those things, like saving yourself or your mental peace at that point of time, or for the later, like it will affect you either at that point, or maybe at later point, when if you say yes it will affect you at later points because you will think about it. So like how should we approach such situations?
So I think this is a problem that exists in all of society. We say yes because we just want to make it go away. So it's easier to just accommodate than to deal with this, because the amount of energy it's going to take to say no and explain why. And, I think in that instance, it's easier, and it's not something that you can do instantly. It takes a little bit of time and practice and contemplation. But I have been in the same situation where, you just say yes, I will go to that event, even though I really, really don't want to go to the event. And you have to ask yourself, why? Why was I scared to say no? Not why did I say yes, but why did I not want to say no? What prevents me from saying no? Because it stems from fear, right? All of it stems from fear. And what am I? Either I'm scared of something, or I am feeling nervous about something, or I have anxiety about something. And what is that? Those are our core base fears that we operate from. And when you can almost sit with the fear and sit with that anxiety. Because the first thing is being self-aware. And I think if you have already identified that you're saying yes and you should be saying no, that's step number one. It's actually sometimes all you need is to become aware in that moment that I'm saying yes, but I actually mean no. And when you keep acknowledging that part, it will become easier for you to eventually to just say no. And sometimes we don't even need to provide an explanation. We just have to say no. What's the worst that would happen? Just say no and see what happens there. Okay. I hope that has helped clarify for you.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, thank you, Neetu. Thank you, Melissa. So beautifully answered. Okay, anybody else? Any question?
Yeah. Hi,
Okay.
Melissa. So the conversation we just had, it's so powerful and profound. So, I would like to ask you, basically, I would like to extend the Neetu's question. As you mentioned, sometimes we have sometimes we want to say yes, but we don't want to. And then, as you mentioned, just observe and speak, that don't want to do something. But there is one thing which I am struggling right now. So there are certain people, who are directly or indirectly, they are dependent on yourself. They emotionally or mentally, and you know this thing really well that at this point of time they are also struggling with something, and you have your own struggles. And the person in front of you, they think, okay, you every time you deal all situation, and this time you can also help us out. So what to do in that situation when that person is also seeking so much of help from you, and they are expecting yes from your side, but from the bottom of your heart you want to say no. So how to deal with that situation? And my another question is, so I'm retrospecting myself from a long time, and I'm unable to differentiate between these two terms. The one is self-care and selfish behavior. So there are certain events when I feel like, I want to quarantine myself. I don't want to speak to anyone. And then I thought, oh no, am I being so selfish because I have so many things to do? There are many people who are dependent on me. There are so many work and they rely upon me. So how to differentiate between these two terms, and what to do when you are in, a very confusing state?
So you said two things. One is self-care and selfishness. That's the one question. And the other question is around, if I understood it correctly,
I think the video stuck. Yeah.
I think we have lost Melissa.
Oh, did you? Okay, I'm back. So you said two things. One is the difference between self-care and selfishness, and the other one is being able to deal with people that are reliant on you for help.
Yeah.
Okay. So let's start with self-care and selfishness because it relates. What is self-care? Self-care, is different things for different people. And, when you look at it now, the Instagram answer would be taking a bubble bath and doing my nails and, taking care of myself physically. But actually, self-care is that thing that rejuvenates you. So what's the difference between relaxation and rejuvenation? And rest. What's the difference between all three? Rejuvenation is actually the part that I'm talking about with the release of serotonin, with being able to love unconditionally, by holding these people that need our help in our minds. And when you meditate, it's a really great Buddhist philosophy where they think of this person that they want to help in their mind. So maybe it's a practice that you could do with the people that are reliant on you, and to give them light and love. And the general practice, the esoteric practices, is you give them pink light. Imagine pink light, which is the equivalent of love. It could be green light, that you are imagining from your heart to theirs. You are empowering them to help themselves. How do you do that versus just helping them to make it go away? How do you give somebody or say things to people or provide them with the energy that they need? Sometimes you may not have any money. Sometimes I see a beggar and I don't have any money to give this beggar. I don't have any cash on me. And sometimes I don't even feel like it. And I think to myself, I'm just giving you love. I'm visualizing your soul, and for this moment, that's all I can give you, and I'm giving you